A sleek luxury hotel towered high above the bustling streets of New York City, its glass facade glistening under the evening lights. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with quiet elegance as VIP guests roamed the grand halls of the Plaza Meridian Hotel. Hidden among the lavish interiors, Emma Rivera, a 27-year-old hotel maid, carried the weight of responsibility on her slender shoulders. Life hadn't been kind to Emma. After losing her father at a young age, she became the sole provider for her family. Her mother, Maria Rivera, a former home care nurse, was now battling chronic illness. Emma's younger sister, Sophia, was in college with dreams of becoming a nurse like their mother. With medical bills piling up and tuition deadlines looming, Emma's life had become a never-ending cycle of double shifts and sleepless nights, each day blurring into the next as she fought to keep her family afloat. The weight of her responsibilities pressed down like a shadow she could never escape. Meanwhile, Ethan Clark, the CEO of Clark Global Investments, had just returned to New York after a high-stakes business trip in London. Known for his precision and quiet dominance on Wall Street, Ethan was often referred to as the silent strategist. However, beneath his well-crafted persona of control and power, Ethan carried a burden that few could understand, an aching loneliness that not even the most extravagant success could fill. Returning to New York only reminded him of how empty his world had become. Their worlds seemed destined never to collide, but one fateful night, an exhausted Emma would fall asleep in the presidential suite she was assigned to clean, and everything would change. Two lives on vastly different paths were about to intersect, raising a question that neither of them had dared to ask. Could love cross the boundaries of wealth and status? The clock struck close to midnight as a warm, golden glow illuminated the grand presidential suite of the Plaza Meridian Hotel. Emma Rivera quietly pushed her cleaning cart into the room, her swollen, tired eyes struggling to stay open. This was the final task in her grueling double shift. Just one more room, she whispered to herself, trying to keep her focus. The room was a masterpiece of opulence. Polished oak walls framed expansive floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a breathtaking view of New York City. The marble floors shimmered under the light of a crystal chandelier. Yet none of this splendor could distract Emma from the thoughts weighing heavily on her mind. Her mother's medical expenses were overdue, and her sister Sophia's tuition payment was fast approaching. Emma moved around the suite with practiced efficiency, each step feeling heavier than the last as exhaustion clouded her senses. After tidying the enormous bed at the center of the room, she finally gave in to her fatigue. Sinking into a nearby armchair, she told herself it would only be for a few minutes. Within seconds, she fell into a deep sleep. Not long after, the door to the suite opened quietly. Ethan Clark entered, his expression weary from a long transatlantic flight. He didn't expect to find anyone inside, let alone a woman in a hotel uniform asleep in his room. For a moment, Ethan froze, surprised by the sight before him. His first instinct was to call security, but something stopped him. The young woman looked different. Even in sleep, her features reflected a quiet intensity, as if the burdens of life refused to leave her in peace. Ethan approached and noticed the slight creases on her uniform. Instead of reacting with anger, he reached for the cashmere throw on the nearby sofa and gently draped it over her shoulders. The subtle movement caused Emma to stir. Her eyes fluttered open and immediately locked onto Ethan's. For a brief moment, time stood still, but reality quickly hit. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Emma gasped, bolting upright. The blanket slid to the floor as panic surged through her veins. "I didn't mean to, I was resting for a moment. Please, I can't lose this job. I need it." Ethan raised a hand, signaling for her to calm down. His voice was low but commanding. "Take a breath. It's not as bad as you think." Emma stood frozen, her heart racing. This wasn't just any hotel guest. She recognized him from business magazines. Ethan Clark, one of the most powerful executives in New York. Emma stood there, still in shock, as Ethan calmly picked up the blanket and placed it back on the chair. He made no accusations, which only confused her further. He broke the silence. "Am I right?" he asked after glancing at her name tag. "Yes, sir. I sincerely apologize. This won't happen again." Stop apologizing. I'm just curious. What makes someone work themselves to the point of exhaustion like this? Ethan's voice was gentle but probing. Emma hesitated. She didn't want to share too much of her personal life. But there was something in his eyes. Genuine interest and concern. After a few seconds, she sighed and decided to answer truthfully. My mom is sick. My sister is in college. They depend on me. I don't have a choice but to keep working these long hours. Ethan didn't press further, but something in her words stirred a memory deep within him. He understood all too well the weight of being the one others depended on. His expression softened with quiet empathy. He understood family burdens all too well. Losing his parents in a car accident at a young age, he had grown up under the strict mentorship of his grandfather. His entire life had been about building a legacy alone. Sounds like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, Ethan remarked softly. Emma gave a faint smile. I just do what I have to do. From that night on, Ethan found himself thinking about Emma more often than he expected. He began visiting the hotel frequently, especially the VIP lounge area, hoping for another chance to talk to her. Though Emma tried to maintain a professional distance, she couldn't deny that Ethan's presence was comforting. He genuinely listened when she spoke. One evening, after her shift, Ethan invited Emma to take a walk on the hotel's rooftop garden. The soft rustling of leaves and the gentle hum of distant traffic created a calming atmosphere. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself to relax, the tension in her shoulders easing under the serene night sky. You're not what I expected, Emma said, breaking the silence. Oh, and what did you expect? Ethan chuckled softly. Someone rich, cold, and only concerned with work and money, Emma admitted bluntly. Sounds like I'm terrifying, Ethan replied with a teasing smirk, but then his voice softened. What if I told you that despite everything I have, I've never felt more alone? Emma blinked in surprise. He continued, sharing stories about his past and the isolation that came with his success. In that moment, they both felt a deep connection forming between them. Over time, these coincidental meetings became routine. The way Ethan looked at Emma and his subtle gestures of care began to stir feelings in her heart, yet neither of them spoke of their growing affection aloud. Everything, however, was about to change when a paparazzo captured a photo of them together during one of their rooftop walks. The next day, photos of Emma and Ethan walking together on the hotel rooftop spread like wildfire across gossip websites. Headlines like, CEO Ethan Clarke's secret romance with a hotel maid dominated the tabloids. Reporters wasted no time ridiculing Emma, painting her as a gold digger, while portraying Ethan as a man struggling under the pressures of his career. Whispers filled the hotel corridors. Staff members and VIP guests began casting judgmental glances Emma's way. Each step she took seemed weighed down by the scrutiny of dozens of eyes. Conversations halted abruptly whenever she entered a room. The tension reached its peak when Isabella Harrington, an old friend and former business partner of Ethan's, made a surprise appearance at the hotel. With an air of effortless confidence, Isabella strolled into the VIP lounge and headed straight for Emma. Emma Rivera, right? I'm Isabella Harrington, she introduced herself with a thin, condescending smile. I think we should have a chat. Emma maintained her professionalism, keeping her tone polite. How can I help you? Oh, just some friendly advice, Isabella replied smoothly, her voice laced with subtle malice. People like us don't take temporary distractions seriously. A chill ran down Emma's spine. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, she said, trying to stay composed. Isabella chuckled softly. Oh, I think you understand perfectly, Isabella said with a patronizing smile. Ethan and I have a history. Do you honestly believe that someone like you can belong in his world after just a few fleeting encounters? Men like him always return to their own kind. Her words cut deep, each one a painful reminder of the vast chasm between Emma's world and Ethan's. Emma stood frozen as Isabella flashed one last smug smile and walked away. That evening, Emma sat in her small apartment, staring at her phone. Messages from Ethan kept appearing, but she couldn't bring herself to reply. Isabella's words echoed endlessly in her mind. Emma didn't want to be the reason Ethan's reputation or career was tarnished by scandal. After hours of reflection, she made a decision she believed was for the best: to distance herself from Ethan and protect him from further damage. After deciding to distance herself from Ethan, Emma focused solely on her work. However, she was unexpectedly summoned by hotel management and asked to attend an important dinner with the Chin Group from Singapore. Patricia Martinez, Emma's supervisor, explained that Ethan had specifically requested her to serve as a cultural advisor for the event. That evening, Emma walked into the hotel's grand dining room with a mixture of anxiety and apprehension. The atmosphere was formal and tense as members of the Chen family, especially Madame Chen, the elder matriarch and the most influential figure, were welcomed. Ethan greeted Emma with a grateful look, but didn't pressure her to speak. The dinner proceeded smoothly until Madame Chen broke the silence with a direct question. "Emma, tell me about your family." Emma froze for a moment, startled. All eyes were now on her. She could feel Ethan tense beside her. He knew how much the Chen Group valued family and sincerity. If Emma couldn't provide a convincing answer, the entire deal could be jeopardized. Taking a deep breath, Emma began to speak. "My father passed away when I was young. My mother, Maria Rivera, raised my sister and me on her own. Despite facing many hardships, she always taught us that true wealth lies in how you treat others, not in what you own." Emma continued, sharing stories of her mother's sacrifices and how those lessons shaped her life. She emphasized that, for her, responsibility wasn't just an obligation. It was a way of protecting the people she loved. Her heartfelt words filled the room with a respectful silence. Madame Chen's sharp gaze softened, her skepticism replaced by admiration. After a brief pause, she turned to Ethan and said, "You have chosen well. She understands something many in your position often forget. Business without heart is just numbers on paper." The tension dissolved instantly. The Chen family members became more relaxed, engaging in further discussions about their collaboration plans. Ethan let out a quiet sigh of relief. Thanks to Emma's story, the trust between the two sides had been solidified, ensuring the success of the partnership. After the dinner, once the guests had departed, Ethan turned to Emma and said softly, "You saved me tonight. I don't even know how to thank you." "I just did what needed to be done," Emma replied quietly, though a strange sense of warmth blossomed within her. In that moment, Emma realized that she and Ethan shared a bond that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Camera flashes lit up the press conference room as Ethan Clark faced the media with unwavering confidence. Rumors about his relationship with Emma Rivera had dominated headlines, but tonight, Ethan was determined to set the record straight. Not just to protect Emma, but to redefine the future of his company. "His rumors mean nothing," Ethan stated firmly. "What matters are the values we stand for: integrity, empathy, and responsibility to the community." He went on to announce a company restructuring, including plans to collaborate with professionals like Emma's mother, Maria Rivera, to develop community healthcare initiatives. Ethan emphasized that Clark Global Investments was committed to supporting underserved families. After the press conference, Ethan invited Emma to the rooftop garden of the hotel, a place that had become significant to both of them. The cool evening breeze rustled the plants, and the lights of the city shimmered in the distance like stars. Emma crossed her arms, trying to steady herself. She knew Ethan had something important to say, but the wounds left by societal judgment and Isabella's cruel words still lingered. "Emma," Ethan began softly, stepping closer to her. His eyes held a depth of sincerity that made her heart ache. "I owe you more than just a thank you. Not only for what you did during the Chen Group dinner, but for showing me what truly matters in life." Emma remained silent, her mind racing. There was no trace of the aloof businessman she had once met. In his gaze, she saw a man who had stripped away his armor. "I don't just want you in my life," Ethan continued, his voice thick with emotion. "I need you, not for what you do, but for who you are. Your strength, your kindness, and your heart, you make me want to be a better man." Tears welled in Emma's eyes. His words shattered the walls she had built around herself, yet fear still clung to her. "Then we'll have to face so much," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't want you to lose everything because of me." There's nothing worth having if I can't live authentically, Ethan said firmly. You've taught me that. Love isn't something I need to hide. I want us to face everything together. Slowly, Ethan knelt and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. The rooftop lights reflected off the elegant ring inside. Emma Rivera, will you marry me? Emma gasped, her hand covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. In that moment, all the fear and doubt melted away. She could hear nothing but her heartbeat and Ethan's earnest words. Tears streamed down Emma's face as her heart swelled with an overwhelming mix of relief and happiness. Yes, yes, I will, she cried, her voice trembling with joy. At that moment, all her fears melted away, replaced by the certainty that they would face the future together. Ethan stood and gently slipped the ring onto her finger. He smiled, his eyes glowing with pure affection. Applause and cheers suddenly erupted from the entrance. Sophia, Maria, and a few familiar faces stepped forward. Sophia waved her phone excitedly. I got it all on video. Emma laughed through her tears. Maria approached and took her hand gently. My little girl has finally found her happiness, she whispered, her eyes brimming with pride and love. Ethan squeezed Emma's hand as they both gazed toward the distant skyline. They knew challenges still lay ahead, but now they would face them together.